Fallout 3 has a pretty solid assortment of weaponry in it, most of which is designed to do damage to friends or foes in one way or another. But there's one weapon that's geared towards the more sadistic among you, a weapon that gives most of those who cross its path an unrewarding and nightmarish life as a slave. Can you beat Fallout 3 with only the Mesmetron? Because the Mesmetron is an energy weapon, the special attributes I'm maxing out are Perception, as it's tied to energy weapons, Luck, because it affects all skills and, well, luck, and Charisma to buff the Barter skill to let me get a discount on stim packs without having to threaten to snap a merchant's back in half with my bare hands. Not that I could, since my strength is at 1, but it's important that they think that I could do that. Dad was less than interested in looking at his little freak show. My 10th birthday party was a little weird, but I'm not going to question it. I'm sure it was just a mistake that someone forgot to get balloons, and I went down to the basement to meet the single Jonas brother. I won't waste too much time here because I explained in a previous video why killing the radroaches with a BB gun is okay. It's because the game forces you to do it to proceed. With the roach dead, I rigged my test results in my favor and picked Barter, energy weapons, and medicine as my tag skills, and began escaping the vault. Escaping the vault without attacking anything isn't all that difficult, though it is annoying that Officer Kendall was more interested in beating me to death with his favorite toy than he was killing the radroaches. I picked up every object I could find on my way out of the vault, escaped, leveled up once I was outside, put the points into energy weapons and medicine, and had 2 whole perks to pick from. I chose intense training to raise my intelligence up to the point that I could get the educated perk. I then arrived at Megaton, avoided the sheriff, sold everything that was worthless to me to the one woman in Megaton who likes feces, bought all her stim packs, spoke to Mr. Burke, and was off to Paradise Falls, because there's only one Mesmetron in the base game, and it's in Paradise Falls. The unfortunate thing is that Paradise Falls is a good bit to the north, and there are raiders and all sorts of unpleasantness between me and my weapon. I lured a raider to a group of wastelanders and an eyebot that took care of it rather quickly, failed at the seesaw, took a few bullets to various body parts as I discovered a new location, walked in on a Mirelurk family reunion, at the old swimming hole, stopped by the grocery store, and finally arrived at Paradise Falls. Grouse is not the nicest person to deal with, but he guards the entrance and won't let you in unless you pay him 500 caps. Or, you can go and get him a few special clients by using the Mesmetron and an explosive collar. There are a few immediate drawbacks to the Mesmetron. The first is that it takes up so much of the screen when you have it out. The next is that it only does 1 damage, it only has 50 shots initially, and the ammo is absurdly expensive, 200 caps for 10 more shots. The ammo isn't cheap because it's a powerful weapon. Half the time, it'll turn an enemy's brain into scrambled eggs, allowing you to steal their stuff, slip a collar on them, and send them off to Paradise Falls to begin their new, horrible life. 30% of the time, their brain is sunny side up, resulting in an individual that attacks anyone and anything it can find. The remaining 20% of the time is what happens when you slam an egg against a cement wall. The victim is confused for a few seconds, and then their head explodes. After testing out my new toy on a group of raiders, I stopped by Big Town to find Grouse's first victim, who wasn't there because he was kidnapped by a group of super mutants. Never one to let a worthwhile slave get away, I made a mental note to check it out sometime in the future, returned to Megaton, picked a random settler to become a slave, picked up my 250 caps from Grouse, bought a few more batteries, and went to rescue Big Town's big boy. There were a few super mutants guarding the place. Luckily, I'd gotten a stealth boy off some sad sack and used it to sneak inside the headquarters. I wandered around a bit until I made it to the 2nd floor, which is where I discovered that the Mesmetron doesn't work on super mutants. How fun! It was also around this point it dawned on me that getting through a super mutant infested building to rescue a teenager might not have been the best idea. Nevertheless, I pressed onward until I got deeper into the basement, where I continued sneaking around. I found Shorty, who wasn't the kid I was after, but I armed him with a knife, and for a while it looked like he was the only valuable ally in my rescue mission. Then he died. More super mutants found me, and I started to panic. In a stroke of dumb luck, I found Red, who was stuck in a jail cell with a lock I couldn't pick. It seemed as though all hope was lost, but just for feces and giggles, I used the Mesmetron on him, put a collar on him, and told him to get to Paradise Falls, despite still being behind bars. I left him down there, escaped the super mutant camp, returned to Grouse, and it turned out that my stupid plan that shouldn't have worked at all worked like a charm. With 1 victim down and 3 to go, I plotted a course for my next target, Arkansas, the estranged cousin of Milton Minefield. I blew off a few of my legs in the process of getting to him, but once I did, I deep-fried his noodle, took his stuff, wrapped a pretty collar around his wrinkled neck, and sent him off to hell. Grouse unenthusiastically informed me that he planned to torment the old profanity. He gave me a new collar, and I was off to Tenpenny Tower for my third special friend. The trek out there was long and boring. Defender Morgan provided some entertainment when the few raiders entered his camp. I thought Morgan would make for a good slave, so I used the Mesmetron on him, but all it did was piss him off, so I let him be and kept moving. I found another victim closer to the tower. His name was Tinker Joe, and he liked robots. He didn't last long after I fried his brain. I might not get paid for enslaving him, but at least his robots are condemned to an eternity of wandering around the wasteland without an owner. The game crashed just outside of Tenpenny Tower. I tried to get a collar on Roy Phillips because a slave that lives forever seemed like a solid idea, but he turned hostile and engaged in a shootout with the tower guards and got himself ended. Inside the tower, I eventually found Susan Lancaster, hypnotized her with my magic box, took her key because who knows where it goes or what secrets lie within, and sent her to Paradise Falls. With one victim left, I thought to send the goody two-shoes sheriff to Paradise. Didn't work since he started doing bad things to the citizens of Townsville. With another failed capture, I sold what I could to Moira, bought more stim packs, and finally ended her wretched existence by getting her to turn on her friends. Death has never looked as good as it did on her. My next objective was Rivet City for 2 reasons. My last target is there, and I'll have to go there sometime in the future anyway. The Mesmetron doesn't work on children because Bethesda is a good company. As I got closer, Red died. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I feel safe in assuming that Grouse was somehow involved. Closer to Rivet City, I found a wasteland junkie and hit the mother lode on chems that I probably wouldn't ever use. Sent my latest victim to his new home, followed him there to collect my reward, discovered Arlington Cemetery. Someone or something exploded my head. I passed by the Jefferson Memorial and arrived at Rivet City to find my target. His name is Flack, and thankfully he's not the one who sells weapons at Flack and Shrapnel Supply Depot Emporium. I zapped his brain, took his key, sent him to Paradise Falls, and nobody was happy about it besides me. So I fled the scene, got my 250 caps from Grouse, who made a pretty vague implication about torture. I stocked up on Mesmetron batteries, went inside Paradise Falls to buy more stim packs, and could finally continue with the main quest. But first, a problem. Megaton still exists. I went up to meet Mr. Burke at Tenpenny Tower, remembered that I hadn't even rigged the bomb yet, returned to Megaton to rig the bomb to explode, started a firefight atop Tenpenny Tower, and watched Megaton burn as I held Alistair Tenpenny's corpse in my arms. I set my sights on Vault 87, hit the road, and a thought entered my brain. The Mesmetron doesn't work on super mutants, and there are a lot of them inhabiting the Jefferson Memorial that'll have to be cleared out to advance the story. I thought for a little while about how to handle this little situation, and came up with no ideas on how to proceed. The only way forward is to go back to before I blew up Megaton so that I could go to Megaton and get Jericho as my companion to do the work for me at the Jefferson Memorial. You may think this is cheating, but it's not. When Jericho kills a super mutant, I get no experience for it and no numbers in the stats section of my Pip-Boy update. This is perfectly legal. Once he'd cleared out the building for me, I told him to wait outside the memorial, since he's now outlived his usefulness to me, and went back to Tenpenny Tower to blow up Megaton again. I didn't hold Tenpenny's corpse, but his corpse was still there. From there, it was time to go save Dad from hologram land down in the basement. Nothing worth mentioning happened on the way out there. I entered the vault, found out that my brain-scrambling device doesn't work on robo-brains, which seems like false advertising, but whatever. I put on the jumpsuit, entered the world of make-believe, performed the usual actions of letting loose the American heroes to slay the savage communists, and rescued Dad. Maybe staying in the simulation would have been a better idea, because outside is a war zone. There's raiders and beavers and Brotherhood outcasts everywhere. I turned one of the raiders against the others, but it didn't last long. The outcasts finished off the remaining raiders soon after. Then I pinned one against the other, and when only a single outcast remained, Dad stepped in with his trusty knife and spent a while working him over. Once anyone not related to me was down and out, I returned to Rivet City and thought about how nice Mr. Zimmer would look with a slave collar. He wasn't thrilled with that idea. I momentarily hoped that I'd just condemned him to a life of being beaten unconscious over and over again by his synth, but that didn't last long either. Dad told me the plan. I turned a security guard against the citizens of Rivet City because I thought his armor would complement my skin rather nicely, and I returned to the Jefferson Memorial to get my hands dirty. This one guy, Daniel Agincourt, he just rubbed me the wrong way. I guess there are some NPCs you just can't enslave, so he just got pissed off and followed me around the memorial, taking shots at me every so often. I got the fuses and fixed stuff. Danny Boy was somewhere where he shouldn't have been, and the Enclave arrived. I took one step forward and one step back here. The step forward was figuring out that I could use my Mesmetron to strip the equipment from Enclave soldiers, ridding them of a lot of their power. The step back was that I didn't have a slave collar. I spent a while getting the soldiers to fight amongst themselves. I spoke to Dad as he was lying on the floor dying, and then something amazing happened. I proved that horrible insults and name-calling can make people change after all. Madison Lee picked up a gun and took the fight to a naked Enclave soldier. But again, there's bad that comes with the good. Daniel was down in the escape tunnel, and he'd not only convinced his friends to kill me, but he made sure they were all armed as well. Madison killed them all, including Garza, ensuring that we wouldn't have to deal with him later. Jericho showed up in the most unlikely of places, and I told him to step off. Then I fried his brain, hoping that Madison, the Enclave soldiers, or the feral ghouls would get him. Madison and I escaped, arrived at the Citadel. I caused a brief civil war in the library, got the location of Vault 87, returned to Groose again to get another collar and buy more ammo, and went to get me a slave from Vault 101. Things went pretty well down there. I got Freddy to go out guns blazing. I made Amata prettier than she's ever been before, put Old Lady Palmer out of her misery, brainwashed a tricycle, met the Overseer, got a new Vault suit, solved all their problems, and left the Vault a hero, never to return. Before making the little journey to Little Lamplight, I stopped by Megaton to see how things were going. It looked about the same as it did the last time I was there. I let the big boys in Big Town know about their friend Red, failed their quest, and was off to Little People Land. To say that things went south quickly would be a hell of an understatement. For reasons I still don't understand, the game started crashing like crazy. It got to the point where I'd press continue on the main menu, the game would load, then crash immediately. Which is a problem, since pressing load on the main menu also crashes the game. So, again, the only viable option was backtracking. I forgot to mention earlier that saving through the menu also sometimes caused the game to crash, which is why I didn't do it very often. This also means that all my work in Vault 101 was for nothing, because I went back to where I was when I just arrived, immediately left, and headed for Little Lamplight. I got lucky and passed the speech check on my second attempt. The little swear word opened up the way to the scary passage, and I pretty much ignored every super mutant I came across. The elephants in the audience may remember what I said about the Mesmetron not working on super mutants, which makes Vault 87 an exceptionally unpleasant place to be for people named Degenerate. Everything went about as badly as I expected until I freed Fox. I don't think I really need to explain why this is a bad situation. God bless Fox, he really tried to fend them off, but he never stood a chance. I ran past the super mutants on the way to the reactor, which sort of worked, until I grabbed the Gek and got stuck in just about the worst place you could get stuck in Fallout 3. And for once, that isn't an exaggeration. The world corrected itself when the Enclave ambushed me and took me to their headquarters in the northwest. For the second time, I forgot to get a slave collar before I started hypnotizing Enclave soldiers. I tried to enslave the president, failed, took his vial, and began trying to escape Raven Rock. I say try, because once again, the game began to break down around me. Crashes were abundant, and I started getting really annoyed. I eventually resorted to the Jeff Ramsey technique of walking backwards towards your nightmare. It worked. I finally escaped, went back to the Citadel, and prepared for the end. A funny thing happened as I went to meet Elder Lyons. The very fabric of reality began to crumble. Crashes occurred at a previously undreamt of rate. The culprit, I suspect, was this one soldier who kept blinking into existence wherever I was. Anyone who studied higher-level mathematics will be able to tell you that 2 points cannot exist at the same place. Just as there can only be one official Ratatouille fan club Discord server in this dimension, there cannot be 2 creatures occupying the same space at the same time. I got through it by being incredibly stubborn. I manually saved every 15 seconds or so, and when the game would crash, I'd still made some progress. But after a lot of time passed, I got through it. Equipped my power armor, fried Knight Captain Durka's brains in hopes that someone would kill her, and took my place among my armored brothers and sisters as we marched behind Liberty Prime to our demise. But unfortunately, I'm as stupid as I am stubborn. I blasted Paladin Febrez's brain with my brain gun. Everyone else opened fire on him, killed him, then opened fire on me. Oddly enough, this is a way to make Liberty Prime become your enemy. It takes some finagling, but you can get him to blast you into paste. With the nonsense behind me, I reloaded a save, followed closely behind Liberty Prime until we all arrived at the Jefferson Memorial. I got a few of the soldiers to fight amongst themselves, and when one was left, I put a collar on that son of a bread box and sent him to Paradise Falls. My curiosity got the better of me. I couldn't just go inside the rotunda. I had to make sure my package got there safely. I got far away enough that I could fast travel to Paradise Falls, got my paycheck from Grouse, and there was something in the back of my mind telling me that I wasn't done yet, that there was one person I hadn't dealt with yet. I returned to the Citadel and began heading north along the river until I saw my target. The ancient evil, now calling herself Grandma Sparkle, resides at Wilhelm's Wharf. I knew better than to go inside her shack. I had no interest in her belongings, only her life. But she's crafty. She thought ahead. In all my travels, I've never once seen her wear a hat, but this time she did. I approached her, saved as a precaution, but it was too late. Her corruption had already infected me. My save menu was all sorts of screwed up. I ignored it. Nothing matters besides enslaving Grandma Sparkle, and I fired away. Not only did my attacks not damage her the way I'd hoped, she crashed the game. So I reloaded the game, ready to try again. And try I most certainly did, but nothing was effective enough. I didn't want her dead, I wanted her to suffer, and that was clearly something I wasn't going to be able to make happen. I left her to lick her wounds. I returned to the Jefferson Memorial, met up with Sarah Lyons again, and we entered the rotunda. Colonel Augustus Autumn could learn a thing or two from Grandma Sparkle, because he went down in seconds. His soldiers, with their leader dead, looked to me as their god. And as any god would, I pinned them against each other to see who lives and who dies. Long story short, they both died. Before I ended it all, I thought of one last prank. If I push Sarah Lyons inside Project Purity with me and agree to go in, we'll both die. No, that didn't work. I once again momentarily forgot the code, entered it at the last possible second, and beat Fallout 3 with Only the Mesmetron. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Fallout 3 with Only the Mesmetron. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Alfonso of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.